and we are beneficiaries directly. And then we have our own center here, which is concentrating on that. And the big problem now is that when, for example, Kimali's company or Simon Washida, the one making the 3D printer and the router, when they get out there and the kind of targets that they have, they want to put these in institutions, for example. Very soon, I think they'll be unable to keep up with the market. So I keep saying to them, you must train many, many more people. We need an army of people, and that obviously is the role of university, who have those skills. So they see it. They don't feel as if it's competition. They know that if they train those people, those are the very same people they'll give contracts to and share the proceeds. So that's how we're moving towards that goal. And then there's other goals. Fab Lab 3.0 and 4.0 have to do with biology. And in fact, the inspiration for the Fab Labs is a biological world. So we're very slowly moving to a place where instead of all the intelligence being in the machines, the intelligence is in the material. So material self-assembles. And so that is happening very much in the northern, in places like MIT. We're starting to see that happening here. And at the same time, the biology world is looking to the fabrication world for the machines that normally they need to go to big institutions to access. The maker world is making those machines much more cheaply for such. So we're also moving into that space, machines for molecular biology, microbiology, biology, and so it's quite exciting. Yeah, I think we met once at the Maker Fair. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Any question? I thought someone would ask what can be printed. You can print your hair, by the way, and the women buy printed hair from China. Yeah.
My name is Brian. I'm a developer and also a student of Maseno University. And as you can go to Kabete campus, you can see so many innovation in place, and you appreciate a lot. I was asking Daktari and Professor, what is the step the government and the institution has made to marketize the products? You know, you can develop a product, but it is like in the museum of Kabete. What is the step made whereby you can be a beneficiary to the product you've made? Like when you see, like maybe you get a market worldwide, and we own that project like Kenyan made. And another question is to the IBM. As you say, the Amazon has 40% of its revenue outside there. I was asking if, let's say I'm a developer and I come up with my own product, is it marketable within the IBM society by itself, or like how other companies have done, like Microsoft, you can sell it in its store? Do you have a store that it market itself by its own?
The first question, you are disappearing. What are we doing to make sure that research is out there is actually why we are here. We have that knowledge that the research is there, the products are there, and there has never been a platform where we come and share. The next step we are going to do is to actually to bring those professors and show some of those products to people, and maybe someone would pick that product and commercialize it. Ideally, I said, my objective is to be able to diversify the thinking around entrepreneurship and how we can improve on productivity. We have just started that we volunteered. We have this knowledge that is existing in the university. We know the public doesn't have the knowledge, and now we have come out and said, let us actually bring this knowledge out to the people, and they can partner with the universities to bring it out. So we don't, we are coming from a point of view, instead of saying, what is the Serikali doing? We said, let us actually do it and push this through. Professor?
Thank you. And if I can add to that, actually the reason even that I'm here, as he's just said, I called him during the week. Now we both belong to the same university. And my challenge at the university is I run a science and technology park, which is, the purpose is exactly what you're saying. And so now we're at the stage where we really need to get the business side. Dr. Ndemo is in the business school. So I was calling him saying, can we sit down and really map a way of how the business school and all the skills and understanding there in the professors and so on can be brought to bear on this problem of the commercialization and what model we use. And we look around Kenya and see some of the successful companies that this community is very familiar with. For example, Seven Seas, Cellulant, Wananchi, and so on. All of these are beneficiaries of angel investment. And you know, how can we, because Triple Helix says the academia doesn't do everything. The government helps, academia and industry. We all work together, and maybe civil society. So how can we now present a company to a bunch of angel investors in a way that they'll understand and be able to make a quick decision about whether to invest in those companies or not? And then how do we actually factor in the input of the professors and the students who will take the company to that level? So trying to work out, because it requires systems, it requires a methodology and so on, so it can be done successfully. And so that's the kind of thing that we're actually trying to plot forward. The government can also be very, very useful. I visited a space like this in Vancouver, and in fact, iHub is so famous. When I went there, they all knew about the iHub. But anyway, in that space, the Mexican government had paid for 5 or so IT companies from Mexico to be incubated there in North America, in Vancouver, which is very close to Silicon Valley, because of the what's happening geographically there. They will get market there. So they were paid for by their government to be there. So these are the kinds of things that, and in fact, while we were there, so the person who was hosting us was saying, by the way, we're going through an economic crisis right now. There's some very, very good companies with excellent technologies, for example, in solar. Why don't you tell your government to come and buy them, lock, stock, and barrel, buy them, take them to Kenya and let them operate from Kenya? Because here, they can't raise finance because of the economic decline that they're going through. So they're suffering, they're stagnating. You know, we need to think out of the box, be innovative and also daring. That's why I like Dr. Ndemo, because you know what he did with Sponsor City and so on. We need to be able to move forward and take steps that are not normally taken. Sponsor City will become a reality soon, and that requires people to actually push beyond what the system is accepting.
Dr. I just before Dr. White goes in the data, I'm just going to be a disruptive here. I do understand what you're explaining to the understand, but I want to hear real meaty information, like tangible that actually make an into these local innovators here. Is that I know the university has capacity. I know the government has a key role, and I know private has a key role. But you see, I've been in this industry for a while now, and I've seen the challenges that this is very high level. We feel it. Yeah. We have engineers, and you said we don't have engineers. We do have engineers, but you know what? It's the university to actually re-adapt new curriculum, reintroduce new machinery so that the engineers, at least 20% in this room can actually debate and compete global. What are we doing as people in this industry? What are we doing? School of Engineering, School of Computer and Informatics, University of Nairobi. Are we talking to each other? Are we ready? Are we talking to each other so we can actually collaborate? At the university level, get the government to plug in, get the Kenya Private Sector Alliance to plug in, get tech hubs like the iHub. You mentioned the iHub is going globally. How are we actually making, what is the change? What's the driving factor that we want to push entrepreneurship and innovation to the next stage? I'm hearing valid comments, but I want to hear meaty information. I think the entrepreneurs here want to find out that if they have an idea, if they have a product, who can they come to? What's the next step for them? And I don't think so they're hearing that. I'm speaking for the entrepreneurs in the iHub.
All right, yeah, I mean, this is the point exactly, and you're absolutely right. I didn't say there are no engineers. I train engineers myself. I know they're there. I said the number is not commensurate with where we should be if we want to get to the 2030 vision. What we're doing in a space like that Fab Lab is trying exactly to tackle that. Curriculum within the Fab Lab right now, there's never been a space in the engineering schools in this country, and actually in many parts of the world, to be honest, especially like Europe and so on, where there's interdisciplinary research. America is quite unique in sort of forging forward along those directions, and that's probably why they have so much innovations, whereby you're in a department of physics, down the corridor is biology, and around there is engineering. You all have coffee in the same place, you have seminars together. Fab Lab is the seed of that. It's just starting up within the context of the university. So right now you have various kinds of engineers all working in the same space on problems together, like in the real world. That it means because of where disciplines meet each other is where innovation happens. Not only do you have engineers, you have architects coming in, you have designers, We have people from places like, what's the art center that we have here, Dennis Pritt Road. Not Go Down, but the other one, Dennis, oh yeah, Kuona. They're coming in from time to time. You know, it hasn't happened. They haven't yet reached the critical mass in terms of, but that's the kind of thing we're trying to enhance. In fact, I really believe that there's going to be a huge disruption because of the content that's all available for university education. You all know about the MOOCs. We have what we call Fab Academy, which is not really a MOOC, but we have once a week professor from the Gershenfeld from MIT teaching students within the Fab Lab. And anybody with a fast enough modem will be able to get all that data, to ask him questions, and to use the very machines in that space to make the problem. Access is open. Fab Lab is open. And many people here know that. They come there.
Fab Lab's open.
How many of you here have been to the Fab Lab? And in fact, some have done projects from this space. And I'm saying to you now, and I know we're definitely not good at PR. We don't, our name and our whatever we do is not really out there, but we're working on it. And I also would like to maybe tell you that working in a public institution is a constraint at a level you won't believe. Some people have to die so that things can happen. It's real, and I'm not encouraging them to die, but I'm saying, you know, remember the story going around Mount Sinai, 40 years before you can get. So we really need to push. And so even the progress we've managed to make has been at huge, huge effort. Universities are not able to recruit the right people because nobody wants to become a lecturer. What kind of money are you getting? So, who is coming to then teach the next generation? So we're saying, I think with these MOOCs and courses that are online, you're going to get very interesting people who know how to aggregate data and to present it to the public and to say, if you want to do, there's so many courses that are online, let's say IIT India, a lot of engineering courses there, let's say MIT, all the top universities have their content online you can access. Who is going to aggregate it for an 18-year-old to understand, if you take this and this and this, and then have people coming in to say, let's actually tutor you on what you've been watching so that you can understand and make sense of it, and then forge some kind of a certificate out of it. That's going to happen. It's going to be disruptive, and I'm sure it will happen soon. So yes, I get you completely, and I'm as frustrated as you, but we're trying.
But what I can assure you, we have started the journey. I mean, we took the risk and said, let's see what happens. Let's see how far we can take them. Let's see how much. We have not asked for money. There are some whom I called, they said, would you pay petrol? And I said, I don't have any money for. That's why we have not even given you tea. Because if you come here, we don't have the money. I have agreed, maybe next time they may charge, but we have started the journey where the university business is talking to engineering. We will talk to other departments. I'll make sure that the next lecture we bring a cross-section of these professors and be able to answer most of these questions. And some of you can see opportunity and say, how do we take this forward? We hold you to the point where it becomes fully commercialized. That is what we, yes.
So first, I really like you provoking everyone before I had a chance to answer, because I've never got to say this before, but the value proposition is you won't have to die to engage the IBM ecosystem around entrepreneurship. So the short answer is Bluemix. The long answer is that it's a tool set for developers to help you develop faster, develop your innovations faster. But it's actually an ecosystem. So it allows companies, established companies, to put problems or to ask developers to solve certain problems. And then the vision is, it's not there yet, that it would also be an iTunes-like capability for developers to show their software products. So that's the direction we're going to solve that problem.
I want to recognize Churchill Otieno. He's actually the one who asked me, can you be writing a column, which has brought us here. I think you can say hello. And Marco Kuta here from Business Daily. 3 more questions because we would want to, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes.
My name is Bernard. I'm an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, you just focus on your solution and you just hope things are going to fall in place. And most of the times, it's been falling in place lately. But my question is, the biggest plank that is missing is, as Dr. Gashigi alluded to, is government. Government has a really, really big role in even M-Pesa. We are proud of it or whatever, but you know that government had a very, very strong role in doing such innovations. And even in Ushahidi, if you look back, you look that it's a government policy that kind of led to the kind of innovation that came around that time. So I think we might be talking as entrepreneurs. I have an innovation that is benefiting a lot from government. A lot of the problems we have, as Dr. Ndemo alluded to, they're social problems. And social problems, one of the biggest platforms that you can leverage is the government. So I think you could really figure out how to involve the government. The other thing is just to ask, is government a problem, and should we innovate? Should we put an innovation around that? And I mean, just think about it. Is it a problem, or are they part of it? Are they part of this?
They are part of the problem?
No, is it a problem, and should we innovate as innovators, as entrepreneurs? And how do we go about doing that? How do we go about bringing the government to this forum so that they can?
We will do within all our powers to make sure that in some of the sessions we get the government in it. And that's why we said we need to work collaboratively, all of us. I would try my best that as we move on, we have engineering, we're going to get a comprehensive solution. This time, we must get the three together. Yeah.
Okay, hello. My name is Richard. And whenever I come to the iHub, it's a bit different because I'm not from the IT sector, I'm more from biology, science. So my question is, you mentioned that idea about people when you, like the Wezo Fund, if you throw it at the youth, they'll try to replicate something they've already seen, Mitumba and all that. But one other thing that people need to be aware of, there's that part, you talked about innovation, but from my field, when you look at innovation, we're looking at translational research where people see something so new, so they are not even sure if they want to throw any money around it. You know, in Kenya, ICT is where all the money, people have been seeing all this stuff with IT. That's what Kenya is known for, but they're not throwing much money into maybe not even the biotechnology or the environmental research. So my thing was, I had an idea. And one thing about not everyone is looking for angel investors. Sometimes you might just want to bootstrap your own company. So this question is for you, Dr. The way it seems the government right now is that there is no preferential like tax measures, no rebates. It's tax is how we're paying for everything. So you're going to, you know, there's that railway levy, you're still going to be taxed with that. Even if you're a new business, you have to pay this, you have to pay that. It doesn't seem like currently there's anything preferential to sidea this person who is bootstrapping, you know, to not be overcome by the weight of a new business and his new research, which is trying to market. So are there any measures, you know, that have been put forward by the government so that people are being helped, that they're not being submerged by this tax that the government feels it has to take from everyone, even the people who are trying to bring new production and new job opportunities to help the economy? Thank you.
The last semester, the semester for the one that ended in December, I had an MSc class, masters, and we got entrepreneurs like you into class, and they worked with students to do research and do other things. Of course, most of the problems came from the government side, and we tried to actually walk there and ask whether there would be help. I think if we expanded this, the government will be able to see. You know, government sometimes doesn't work until they are pushed. And I think that question on whether civil society can be involved is very critical, where you find somebody who has time to go and push for policy changes. And when that has been crystallized, like in the case, the people we had in the class, we knew precisely what they wanted, where they wanted, and I had a chance to work with them to Treasury and actually demonstrate that if you do this, you are actually going to kill all these people you are giving money from UWESO fund. So it doesn't happen overnight, but something is happening. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Suraj, and I'm also a local entrepreneur here. So you guys have all said about how it's very hard for innovators to commercialize what they're doing, and they should get money from UWESO fund and everything. But there's something that I've experienced is that innovators are not always business people as well. And so I think there needs to be a connection between innovators and people who know business. And since both of you come from the University of Nairobi, and one from the business school and one from the engineering side, why don't you look at programs where in your school you're teaching people how to develop products and commercialize them? And so why can't students who are learning in your institution work with departments like the engineering where they've already got a product that they need to commercialize? Because it's very important. Innovating is one thing, and then commercializing is different. No matter how big a problem it solves, if it cannot be sold to a customer, you can't make any money out of it.
That's what Professor was saying, interdisciplinary. Most universities nowadays, they have perfected interdisciplinary programs where you bring engineering students to study with business students, and they're able to actually now begin to see the opportunity. And one other way, if you are not at the university, this is what we want to develop here, that you can float your idea, we discuss it, we try to help either through research or give you some research document around it, so that by the time you do your business plan, you fully understand the risk levels and other things, and you can be able to commercialize the idea. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Kelvin from the iHub. I just had one question to, as much as we are saying that we want to get business to work together in engineering and all that, we all know that the best resource inside a company is the human resource. And if we can get these guys to work together, but then they do not have the skills of how to work together. You guys doing something around that, maybe teaching these people how to form teams and maybe coexist, because merely putting them in a room is not going to work. You actually have to make them learn how to.
You are asking about social skills, so
yeah.
Now we can work together.
Yes, that they can work together.
Tutaomba Mungu tu. Just pray to God, and because there is no other way of, we simply have to understand there is a serious problem of unemployment and begin to work together to solve the problem. And as I said, a problem actually is an opportunity, which probably would take us to a point where we are able to work together. Yeah, there was a gentleman down there, yes, a lady, and then there. We are overrun our time because there is one more presentation then. Yes.
My name is Elizabeth, and my question maybe can be directed to both Dr. Kamau and local production. So you're talking about having a fab lab whereby you have training like university students to actually design the tools to be able to be entrepreneurs or something of the sort, and also promote local production of goods. But what about the other, how we are currently doing that, like the Jua Kali sector who are also trying to do that? How is Fab Lab also going to work with also that kind of sector? Because an example is Fab Lab can help me, yes, prototype my thing. But to some extent, I just rely on the Juakali sector to actually say I want to have a lot of, to produce some stuff, because they are somehow much faster as much as they are also manual. So how is Fab Lab also going to work with them and also assist them in also making their products much better or even producing their products faster? And what
Actually,
is government doing about the Juakali?
not government.
Oh,
When I said we want from the university to see that we improve on productivity, I study small enterprises. You find me in Kariobangi, in Shaurimoyo, to look at those small enterprises. I feel so bad that to make a karai for mandasi, you know that karai? Those people have to spend the whole day heating like that. Now I would go to a professor here, and he makes a machine to bring a flat plate, and it just presses, and you get a karai. They can do 1,000 karais in a day, rather than doing 5 and using so much energy. This is what we were talking about, industrial revolution, where they were using more tools than hands to make some of the products. That is where it comes in, and they designed something that will simply press and they do something. Even somebody making mandasi, yeah, instead of them pounding the, what do you call it, the dough, they can just get something to do it and be more productive. When we say about productivity, we are just looking across, and we will look at the activities and come and ask the engineers, how can this be either automated or be made simpler to improve on productivity in this area and help the people in Juakali and other areas. I think you.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, another example that there's these things, something called a tindo. I think some of you know. It's a piece of metal that you hit to break, to crack stone, and so on. They're usually being made and sold in like Kariobangi North and so on, taken from a metal shaft from the vehicle. Very high grade steel that we can't get in the shops here. But then by the time they've chongered it to make it sharp and so on, it's been heated so much that it loses the microstructure that makes it strong. So we are, for example, taking those and measuring exactly how much damage they've made by heating it, and then showing them ways of making it stronger again by what we call heat treatment. That's one example. If we take the example of the karai, and you make in fact, we do have a screw type press to press a sheet of metal into a wheelbarrow, for example, can easily be adapted for a karai. It has to be done very carefully, because what's likely to happen is that the person who will now start that business for making karais like that will take all those guys in Shaurimoyo out of business unless they incorporate together. So, and perhaps because of the improved business model, there'll be new jobs created indirectly for those people who get laid off. So, you know, it's kind of tricky. As well as that, what we're doing in Dagoretti with the new Fab Lab is aimed at the Juakali sector, as I was saying before, where furniture is concerned and so on. And also we want a new cadre of people who will be making the machines, not necessarily from the university. And so we do have, we are open to people from the colleges who come in, and even like there's a guy who famously made a tea making machine in Kiambu, who we welcomed into the Fab Lab. He's not a student, he doesn't have a degree, but he's brilliant. And we're able to give him some training and so on. And now he's got a company that we're incubating, and they've installed about 800 speed governors at the coast. That it's their own design, but they send to China, they're packaged and everything, and come back, and he's really making good money. And so that's an example of how we'd like to be able to get somebody who is, he's above Juakali for sure, but he's an example of how people who are not within our university can still benefit from Fab Labs. And so on. And one last point regarding what you had said about government assistance. There's an EPZ system, I think everybody knows, where you get a company, FDI, they come in and they're given, a lot of laws are suspended around taxation and so on, 10-year tax holiday, what have you. And so there's a new policy, it's called Special Economic Zone Policy. So you're identifying geographical zones whereby the companies in those zones will get those same benefits. And we're lobbying very much for incubators, even like the iHub, to also get the same. Well, we're doing it for the university, but any incubator getting the same advantages and being defined as a special economic zone wherever they may be.
You had a follow-up. Let us move on. There was oh yes.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. So I've heard a lot about government, and my name is Wesley Kirinya. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I've had a lot, I always hear a lot government and universities being mentioned, like in forums like this one. But then through my entrepreneurship journey, there's also another aspect I've come to see that, which I think is the biggest weakness, and that's actually the entrepreneurs themselves. I think governments and universities, at least for the innovations I've come to see, they're always behind. Universities create employees. Innovators are out there in the streets looking for things to innovate, right? Like as Dr. Shigia mentioned, the guy who doesn't even have a degree and who created what he did. Government is always trying to catch up to what innovation did. Google, Facebook, always being taken to court for privacy and all these things. So basically what I'm trying to say is entrepreneurs, I feel like what I'm saying is entrepreneurs need to understand what entrepreneurship is. It's extremely tough. When the market is not there, you create it. When the challenge, you are the one to create it. You are the one to change the laws. You are the ones to, you look at the history of entrepreneurship and innovation. Those guys faced government challenge, society challenge. They're isolated, but they build things. So, yeah, just to cap it off, for me, the way I see it through my journey, earlier on, I thought universities and government were the hindrance, but I think the mentality of entrepreneurs, they need to understand what entrepreneurship means, to be an entrepreneur.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I want to call on Emmanuel to come, or it's you, to come. And so those who haven't seen what the 3D does can also see. You can.
Hi everyone, my name is Peter and I'm here on behalf of Dr. Ndemo. What we have back there is a 3D printer, and I come from a company called 3D Nano. It's just here in Westlands, and we are looking for young people to come and join and to come and find other opportunities which are very, very readily available. Like for example, for those who don't know, 3D printing is an open source whereby now people will be designing and they'll be uploading their designs online, whereby each and every individual who has a 3D printer can download, pay for the design, and he or she can earn money. So it's going to be something big. There isn't another online store like that in Kenya, so we would look to partner with FabLab and also iHub in order to see that come to. We brought 3D printers in Kenya due to just a small issue whereby we no longer want made in the US, China. We have an idea of made in Kenya because simply it's Kenyans who can solve Kenyans' issues. And like some of the places we have been, we have had guys who have come up with so many ideas and so many innovations. And others have prototypes that you can't imagine on paper. And what we're offering them is the chance to come up with a prototype which an investor can see the future in and be able to fund them. And there's still a lot to learn from 3D Nano and 3D printing. Like he's from KU and they have a new company, as new as 2 weeks. And he's going to explain about 3D printing and take you through some of the things that 3D printing will be looking into. And I would like to invite Emmanuel. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel, as you've heard. I'm a bit unconventional, so I'll start with a question. Being an innovator myself, I don't want to get lost. I don't want to get lost in the midst of my presentation. My question is to Dr. Okay, I'm a bit I have a multidisciplinary background. I've done engineering, I've done biology, I've done chemistry, I've done BCom marketing, and I'm pushing on to other things. Now, my question is, okay, it is more related to what some questions have been raised. can you point us in the right direction? Because in Kenya we have innovations. I have some patents and some copyrights to my name. Can you point us in the right direction? I'm thinking more in the lines of quotas, as it is applied in agriculture. Can we have quotas for innovations, whereby more or less what has happened in India, whereby people, as in our innovations, will be boosted. Like, if you're, let's say we are producing something. If we were to produce bicycles, can we have quotas whereby so much shall be produced by Kenya, and then for importation, it will be restricted to so much, so that as long as there's demand here, it will be, the supply as well will be sourced here. So, yeah, you'll answer me later or now? Okay.
That's a government question, and I'm not government. But I know there is that 30% for youth, which the government is trying to put in place. And they're actually looking at changing the procurement law to enable that. But there is a lot of discussion around if you do it, Tanzania will do it, and then you probably end up losing. These are the discussions that I held this Doha round and stuff like that. But I would encourage you to be the best in the world, so that there are no restrictions. You are not protected, and then you become complacent. You do your best. Whatever government is doing to encourage youth would probably be sufficient. But if you want to go international, don't seek for protection. Just go out there and fight.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Today I'll not be taking you through my invention, but rather the work of Charles Hull. He's the one who came up with a 3D printer. So this is 3D printing for one. A 3D printer definition is it's a machine that produces, or rather, it's a table manufacturer. Assuming we are familiar with 3D models, the AutoCADs and ArchiCADs, the various CAD softwares, whereby you create a 3D image, which is software. What a 3D printer does, it replicates, it manufactures the model that you have, the soft copy that you have. It makes it physical. It does that by creating, assuming it's this microphone, it will start by placing layer after layer of molecules, and end up with a final structure, which is basically this. It starts with a CAD model. Then a CAD model is it's transmitted to a STL file. It's sliced by a certain software, and then the 3D printer lays the layers, layer after layer after layer, and then you have the final product. There are various 3D printer machines that exist out there. There's the SLA, which is it's actually a liquid that is burned by a laser. Then it solidifies, ending up with a 3D printer, ending up with a 3D model. And then there's the SLS. SLS is a powder, which is more or less like the liquid. It does the same thing. And then there's MGM. MGM, instead of using a laser, it uses an adhesive. And then there's the FDM. FDM is what we have back there. As I said, the technology is not new. It started in 1984 after Charles Hull. It went open source in 2006. I'm happy to hear there's someone who's doing it from iHub. FabLab. Yeah, I'm happy to hear there's someone who's doing it from FabLab. It's on open source. If you want a challenge, you can be able to do it by yourself. Advantages of this technology. You can be able to store your models digitally. You can be able to deliver your products digitally. For example, you can design your product in Kenya, and the end user being anywhere in the world, you can be able to send it there via net, and then they'll be able to reproduce it. it encourages more local manufacturing. It's a auditory method of creating things, so there is no wastage. It increases customizations. Okay. 3D printing in specific fields. We have, let's start with engineering. Rapid prototypes. I was seated back there, and then I was looking at the coffee machine, and then I was thinking to myself, if I was to make that thing locally minus a 3D printer, how would I end up coming up with one? Probably I'll go take a can of cooking oil, maybe a kasuku can, and hook it up maybe to some grinder and a mortar somewhere, and at the end of the day, what I'll end up with, it's not something that it will take me quite a length of time to end up with the end product, and whatever I'll have, it's not something that I will sell it confidently, because it will be looking. We are familiar with what they do, what they make at Juakali down there. They are practical, but they're not good to look at. But with a 3D printer, you can be able to do that, making a prototype and doing that. You can come up with complex designs. For example, the complex designs exist. Like they've been able to make an aeroplane using the 3D printing technology, whereby most of the planes that we have, the chassis is lateral, but they've been able to come up with a complex hypoid type of chassis, whereby the plane is much lighter and stronger. As I said, you can come up also with internationally acceptable standards of products. The same thing I was explaining about the Juakali place. We have practical things, but it is not presentable. But with a 3D printer, you can be able to come up with something which is presentable. I've seen, when I was doing my engineering, I've seen people doing their projects. On paper, everything exists fine. It is very good, it's very workable. But when it comes to creating the product physically, what happens is you go and start soliciting things from here and there. Like you'll go, if you want a gear, maybe you'll go and vandalize a printer somewhere or an old copier, get a gear from there. If it's a motor, to step down the speed, you'll do the same. What you end up with, it's not something that much presentable. Art. For art, the same. You can be able to come up with complex designs. There are a lot of shoes that I've seen around women wearing. You know the plastic shoes that have a similar design to this? They're actually 3D printed in China. You can be able to do also earrings, shoes, many other things. You can be able to customize your products. Like maybe you want a shoe with a ribbon here, and the platform maybe looks like this, looks like that. You can be able to customize. It's actually happening online, whereby maybe, maybe it's the holes you want them to be a bit smaller, a bit bigger. You can even be able to incorporate your name onto your shoes or onto any artwork that you want. Yeah, these are replication of the same, as you can see. Architecture. You can be, for the same thing as architecture, you can be able to come up with complex designs, as complex as you want them. You can be able to do a precise mock-up. Like we are familiar, like whenever an architecture does a proposal to come up with a building, they must do a mock-up. The mock-up is, what happens currently is that people cut board and paint it, do this and that. It is not usually very precise, but with a 3D printer, you can be able to come up with a precise mock-up. And interplanetary exploration. Yeah, for interplanetary exploration. The they're saying by 2030 they'll start, they're intending to take people to Mars to live there by 2030, not to go and come back, but permanently live there and maybe start life or something. So what happens is we'll not be able to transport a house physically there, but we'll be able to take whatever is used for production of houses. It will be concentrated maybe into one mass or a container. Once it gets there, a 3D printer will be able to do it, because you don't need that much manpower when doing that, and many other things. Medicine, there is bioprinting. Up there we can see this one here is interesting because this is actually a bladder. It was noted that human cells, the size of a human cell and the size that is dispensed from a 3D nozzle, it is more or less the same. So they started bioprinting. Bioprinting is whereby actual human organs are developed from scratch down. They've been able to do a bladder, they've been able to do a heart, they've been able to do kidney. Okay, for human trials are yet to begin. They've started animal trials and they've been successful so far. The thing with donating organs, in a short while it will be a thing of the past, whereby your very same organ will be able to be recycled and come up with a better organ that is working and everything. There's computer. Computer also helps in medicine, whereby a computer is a 3D printer which specifically makes medicine from the molecular aspect. Like, for example, you want some painkiller, you can be able to say, I want paracetamol. It will be able to, it has the raw components individually, it combines them, and then places them specifically to make a certain molecule where you'll end up having your paracetamol or having your antacid or whatever medicine that you want. And okay, using like what we have back there, we can come up with postelic limbs. What exists right now is heavy, non-usable. Okay, they're usable, but they're heavy and a bit complex, so to speak, type of postelic limbs that we have. You know, like the Captain Hook hand. You're familiar with that? Yeah, but we can be able to come up with actual models as such, which are workable, which are light. If you go online and you do your research, you'll be able to see of several people who are actually using this. For example, that one, this is someone who lost their lower jaw. They were able to come up with a 3D, they're able to come up with that. You can see people using the postelic arms. Also that is that's the bladder that was printed. And lastly, business. There is a lot of business in 3D printing. And it's modern. There's a lot of money in it. You can go into it. Like maybe if you're doing all the aforementioned sciences that I've said, you can be if you by 3D printing you can come up with cheaper and workable models that are there. Also beyond that, you can see, okay, like sales of the 3D printers, it's about to go up. We anticipate in a short while in the future, 3D printing will be a compulsory course, like more or less what we have with computers. It will be a necessary skill for you to survive because it's going to cut across every field that exists. Yeah. Thank you. I'll take questions if any. None? Thank you.
So, so we took the risk to come here. We don't know whether we succeeded, but we are going to continue with more detailed presentations. We would get more professors, maybe more government into it, and they begin to see whether we can change our country. Very simple like that. I think you're beginning to see, and you can enrich, because we are going to develop a portal which we want us to enrich and clearly develop the objectives, goals, what we want to achieve out of this. But from the beginning of it, it's going to be a forum where we will share ideas. Those who would want to meet the like-minded, they would. Those who would want to see the products that are available, research done, and nothing done with it, you can work with it. Those who would just to escort everybody, you can come. But yeah, in the same vein, we would leverage at such meetings to talk about big data, because it's going to impact entrepreneurship in a way that most of people have not understood. So we would go deep into it, explain, so that we can all be aware of what data will do to us and how we can leverage on it to improve our entrepreneurship. Do you want to greet people? This is one who started data science in Kenya. Last time, my last article, I used data from there. She gathers data from all over the place. For us to control in population in this country, every woman must go to school, because girls who don't go to school give birth an average of 8 kids. Those who go to standard 7, it drops to 5. By the time they get to university, they are down to 2.5, if there is a half child. Those who go to PhD, 0. So if they get to PhD, we would be able to control our population. Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, I seem to have forgotten something.
Yeah.
Okay, since you didn't have a question, is there anyone who will be interested in a free 3D printer?
Everybody, everybody.
Is there anyone who will be interested in a free 3D printer? Okay, this is the thing. We have been mandated by NACOSI to create awareness on 3D printing thanks to some gentleman who's amongst you. He's given us 2 3D printers to give out for free. This is the model that we're going to adapt. We shall create a competition whereby you create your own digital model, and then we shall have able people who shall be able to judge it. If your model comes up on top, you shall win the 3D printer for free. Number 1 takes one, number 2 takes another one. So the competition is going to be held in October 17th. That's the date. Next week, there shall be, next week it will be the Science, Technology and Innovation Week in Kenya. It shall be held at the KICC. We shall be there. If you walk there, you shall find us in a certain stand. We shall be able to give you more information. If you want to interact more with us, we shall be able to do that. So get involved. I'll be moving, me and him and another team, we shall be moving all around Kenya, creating awareness about this 3D printing, because, as I said, it's a necessary skill. Thank you for your time again. 19th, 20th, and 21st at KICC. We shall be at the open court, I think.
Professor, anybody wants a free Nyayoka? So thank you. We thank you. We went over by 1 hour. We hope we'll be forgiven. We have no lunch. We didn't have breakfast. So that's it. Thank you.